Hi, this video is in our Great Engine Game series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler, and today we look at a phenomenal game between Stoofvlees-Drofa from the TCEC Swiss 2. I called Stoofvlees the Morozevich of the engine world in my new book, The Silicon Road to Chess Improvement, and it doesn't disappoint in this game. I mean, sacrifices in the Sicilian on b5 are two apiece, but I've never quite seen a sacrifice on b5 like this. One e4 players should take this game as inspiration in the Open Sicilian, but also take note of Stoofvlees' very interesting opening play in a topical line of the Sicilian. So let's have a look at it. Stoofvlees white against Drofa as black. e4 c5, knight f3 e6. So a can Sicilian that transposes into a line of the Taimanov, and there's numerous possibilities here. Knight takes d4, b5 is very common, was recently recommended in a huge book on the Taimanov Sicilian. But h5 is a very popular move as well. So the threat is knight g4. So white plays h3, and then the question is this move h5 useful, or has it proven to be a weakness? Only time will tell. So b5 played, and now a very unusual move from Stoofvlees. Knight takes c6 has been the main choice of human players, really every time that black plays b5, but the primary goal of knight b3 is to avoid this simplification. Black was also looking at playing knight takes d4, bishop takes d4, and bishop c5. By retreating the knight to b3 rather than to f3, you leave the possibility open for f4, followed by e5. And, although the knight on b3 moves away from the king, so kind of reduces the danger there, the knight might be of use if white switches its attention to black's queenside with a4. So Drofa played bishop b7. I'll have to say that in my engine matches between Stockfish and Revenge, both Stockfish and Revenge rather wanted to delay the development of the bishop and play bishop to e7, and then afterwards queen e2, d6, f4, and then this move rook b8. Really very, very cautious about developing the queen side and protecting that pawn chain. And I think you'll maybe understand the reasons why when you see the game. This wouldn't make any sense to me if I hadn't seen the main game. But anyway, you can see how cautious Revenge and Stockfish were. But Drofa played bishop b7, f4, threatening e5. d6, and now queen e2, which is a slightly unusual place for the queen. Normally, in this sort of structure, you often see the queen coming to f3. But the queen's placement makes a lot of sense here, because just imagine that white wants to play a4 and this b pawn disappears, either after b takes a4 or b4. Then the queen and bishop are lining up against the a6 pawn. So now the position gets very interesting, and again we see both Revenge and Stockfish finding some interesting ways to play. I mean, bishop e7 is obvious, but white's idea is to go a4, b4, knight b1. And if black goes d5, it's quite an obvious way of playing. We go e5, knight e4, and we take and go a5. And we're just really restricting this knight on c6. And then we're going to play knight d2, looking to take the pawn on e4, or even knight c4. We've got bishop b6 coming in as well. Black's pieces are just a little bit wrong where they are. Now, Stockfish and Revenge both wanted to play the very interesting knight b8. It's a little bit like a Brea or something. You wouldn't expect to see that in a Sicilian, but in general, when the bishop has gone to b7, the knight's not on its best square on c6. d7, Najdorf style, is much better. And it was very, very interesting. Revenge tried to exploit it immediately, going back into a sort of rouser structure. But somehow Stockfish was reasonably comfortable as black. After knight b8, Stockfish played knight d2, knight bd7, a4, and knight a2. It's all a little bit weird, really. But again, a similar sort of idea, really, where white's attacking this black queen side, and black's not really that comfortable. It was a slight advantage for white. Yeah, somehow in the end, Revenge didn't manage to hold it. All looks a bit funny to me to white, but I think Stockfish was already giving plus 1.5 here. Again, it's all about this this knight and the lack of activity that it has, and also, of course, the weak pawn on e4. So what Drofa did was intended against a4, but unfortunately all it managed to do was to turn what looks like a positional idea into an absolutely enormous attack. So rook c8, a4, b4, and now the idea was that after knight b1 we do play d5, knight e4, takes, but if we play a move like a5 we can play a move like knight e7, for example. We've kept e7 free for the knight, and the knight's going to come round to d5 or to f5, aiming for g3, and black's a lot more active this way. So it's a lovely idea, but there's a big flaw in it, because after a4, b4, Stoofvlees uncorked the amazing knight b5. Yeah, I mean, as I said, I've seen many sacks on b5 in the Sicilian, but I've never seen one like this, which purely has the idea of activating the white rook on a1 in actual fact, and also just exploiting the tempi that a tiny pawn can gain against more powerful pieces. I mean, there isn't really a good move for black here. There was a great game between Revenge white against Stockfish, where Stockfish played queen d7, d5, knight e4, which looks very reasonable, but Revenge just gave it a right old go, I have to say. Takes, knight a5, amazing move actually, knight g3, queen f2, h4, rook e1, takes, and yeah, I mean, yeah, somehow black's got all sorts of problems. This e6 pawn is weak. We're also threatening to take on b7. I mean, actually, all Stockfish could do was to bail out with queen g4 castles. Revenge took on b7 and won a very fine game. It was a really nice attack. But I mean, you can avoid taking the knight, but you just get a horrific position. So you do understand the idea of taking on b5 and then just trying to keep the material. I mean, the frightening thing is that you have to do that, because something like bishop e7, you sort of think, okay, give back material, but it's just this activity on the a file that's killing. Pardon me. So queen to b8, knight a5, we're threatening knight takes c6, the bishop on e7 is loose, so castles just allows rook takes c7, and well, bishop d7, rook b7, rook a1. It's just getting very, very difficult for black. Really horrific. So we've also got e5 coming in just at various stages. So Drofa played knight d8, b6, queen b8, bishop b5 check. And yeah, white's got a very simple plan against pretty much anything, and that's to go rook a7 and then knight a5. So for example, if we go bishop c6, I go rook a7, bishop e7, knight a5, and well, if you castle, at the very least I can take on e7. And well, otherwise I'm just going to do some stuff like taking on c6, playing queen b5. I mean, there's just a world of hurt ahead for black here. b7 is another huge idea. So knight d7 was played, and now Stoofvlees took a slightly unusual decision. Rook a7 is kind of really obvious. Knight c6, takes, knight a5, and we just sort of carry on there really. Rook a1, coming in with queen b5 afterwards. Just everything's dropping. Bishop b6, castles as rook takes c7. And I'm threatening rook c7 here as well, just picking up the rook. So that would have been very strong. But Stoofvlees goes for something, different approach really, but also very good. Actually, dragging the king out into the centre, onto the second rank, where it'll be pinned by rook a7, and now looking to open up the f-file. So e5 played, rook a7, knight c6, and now Stoofvlees just plays rook fa1, just offering another exchange, and white would then be a rook down, but looking at black's pieces all on the back rank, it looks like white's actually material up in this position, not a whole rook down. So what is black to do? Well, very, very difficult. King e7 was played, queen b5, king d8, and then here Stoofvlees played the rather odd, you might say, king h2, and well, Stoofvlees' programmer Giancarlo Pascuto, he tweeted that as showing off. I mean, it's unnecessary precaution in a way, but it just emphasises how helpless black is, and it doesn't affect the evaluation of the position one jot. I mean, AlphaZero also had the mannerism to spend a tempo securing its position with king h2 at critical moments, and I'll highlight quite a number of those in the Silicon Road to Chess Improvement. Knight a5 was what Stockfish and Revenge were doing. Takes, bishop e7, queen takes b4, just grabbing the material, queen a4. We're going to start taking on b7 and going rook a7 now. So, for example, bishop f6, takes, rook a8 check, and king d7 is met by takes, and b7, and you can't stop that pawn from queening. So, but king h2, also very good. Drofa found nothing better than f6, and now c4. We're going to bring in another attacking unit there. We just actually want to play c5 and open up the d file then. And if we go c5, d takes c5, we can bring a knight into play, or bring a bishop into play, you know, and squeeze the black king even more. So takes, h4 played, c4, and takes, take the rook, don't worry. Bishop c6, queen a6, bishop e4, and knight a5. And it's quite amazing how, you know, coming around the a file like that, you're just making huge threats. But of course, b7 is the threat. The queen and king are on the back rank. So yeah, you know, rook a8 is going to happen afterwards. And bishop f5, b7, d5, rook a8, and that was basically it. Drofa played this, but obviously didn't last very long. So there we are. I mean, a quite magnificent game from Stoofvlees. I mean, it really is an engine that finds the most incredible ideas, you know, and I'm always happy to run engine matches with it, and you know, so grateful to Giancarlo that he gave me the opportunity to use Stoofvlees. You know, I think it's really been an absolute joy to analyze with it. So and yeah, games like this, you know, it just makes you just gives you a nice warm feeling in your heart, really. But a4, b4, knight b5. I mean, remember this idea because it's a very unusual theme. And also, yeah, I think this idea in the opening to play knight b3, play f4, put the queen to e2. You know, with this latent idea of knight b5. I mean, it's really yeah, that would be pretty decent preparation against even the strongest players. So. Yeah, white players watching this video, take a note of it, make the most of it. Alright, well, thanks very much. If you enjoyed the video, why not think about giving me a like or even subscribing to the channel. Plenty more coming, loads of engine games, and maybe some very exciting stuff during the World Championship. And otherwise, you know, also take a look at my book, my new book, The Silicon Road to Chess Improvement, which all sorts of stuff about training with engines, learning from engines, and amazing engine games that have never been analysed before, actually completely unknown, but it's the finest chess you've ever seen. But anyway, thanks very much for watching, and hopefully see you for the next video.